welcome to season 2 of Scandinavian Crimes. Oh, my beautiful, beautiful crime stoppers. Welcome back to another season. Yes, I know you guys missed us over the course of, the summer months. I appreciate all the love because y'all have still been listening, for the 2 months we were out. But Jesus Christ, we almost didn't take any dip in listens. But anyways, today I want to start off this lovely podcast with my lovely host, Delila, of course. Go ahead, show them, give them a little bit of, something right there. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. I'm just happy and excited for this season, and I'm so glad that you guys are still supporting us and listening, and I'm just very excited for this season.
You see, we're both back and ready for action. Now you'll notice there'll be some small changes in the podcast, nothing too crazy. More story-like, also with a little bit of more sound effects to kind of give you a more submersive feeling into the stories. But nonetheless, the moral of all this, no matter what, is that we are here to bring awareness to the situations and also to tell these stories in a way so that way to be careful. Despite what you may think of the world, things are very much still dangerous out there for many different people, especially women. So today's episode is crazy interesting. I wanted to start off with something that's super fire. This one is called the Copenhagen Hypnosis Murders. Now, we'll tell the story of Palle Hardrup. So we can tell from the title already that it has to do with hypnosis, which is super trippy. We've never covered anything like that. And can you imagine someone committing a crime, with even hypnosis involved in it? That's a crazy story. But nonetheless, this is very real. So this is what makes it even more exciting. The fact that this could happen even today. So sit back, relax, grab your tea, grab your snacks, and let's kind of just go over the Copenhagen Hypnosis Murders. It was a cold morning on March 29th, 1951, when Hardrup stopped into the Landman's Bank in Nørrebrogade in Copenhagen. Wearing a ski mask and dark sunglasses, he concealed a gun in the pocket of his oil-stained work clothes. Hardrup stepped further into the center of the room, and suddenly, one gunshot erupted, shattered the calm atmosphere at the bank. Hardrup fired a shot into the ceiling, sending debris raining down onto the victims. As he did so, he demanded the attention of all 9 employees and the 2 customers present, ordering them to all lay down. Panic swept through the room as everyone realized the gravity of the situation. They were at the mercy of a very dangerous man. Throwing his briefcase onto the counter, Hardrup ordered the bank teller Kai Mahler to fill the briefcase with bundles of bills. As Mahler stood, he caught a glimpse of the gun aimed directly at him. In a moment of sheer terror, he instinctively took a step back, sealing his tragic fate. The sound of the gunshot echoed through the bank as Hardrup pulled the trigger, ending Mahler's life in an instant. Chaos ensued as the bank staff sought refuge behind the safety of the counter. However, 2 customers and the bank manager, Arnold Wisbaum, remained exposed to Hardrup. He demanded Wisbaum to fill the briefcase with money. With fears in his eyes, Wisbaum attempted to comply, but time seemed to slip away and panic gripped his heart. In the blink of an eye, tragedy struck again. A gunshot pierced the silence and Wisbaum fell, his heart silenced forever. Hardrup hurriedly fled the scene on a bicycle through the snow-covered streets with not even a penny in his hand. He only had his desperate desire to avoid capture in his mind. However, eyewitnesses were determined not to let him slip away and so come forth in a relentless pursuit which led Hardrup to his arrest in a dimly lit hallway on Griffenfeldsgate in Nørrebro. The day after the double murder, the newspaper wasted no time in portraying Hardrup as a horrible murderer. What made matters worse is that in the past, he was associated with the Nazis during World War II. He was later trialed for treason and got sentenced to 4 years in Horsens State Prison. 2 days after the robbery, a man approached the Copenhagen police. He confessed that the bicycle used by Hardrup during the escape belonged to him. The bicycle's owner hoped to emphasize that he merely lent his friend Hardrup the bike and was not involved in any of the crimes. However, the revelation led to the discovery that the owner was none other than the notorious criminal Bjørn Schouw Nielsen. The new revelation thrust Nielsen into the spotlight, exposing his own criminal history. Like Hardrup, he had been convicted of treason after World War II, and during his time in Horsens State Prison, he had become acquainted with Hardrup, forming an unlikely bond as cellmates. Within the prison walls, the two men had secluded themselves from the other inmates, exploring the realms of Asian philosophies, yoga, and even hypnotic practices. It was these experiments in hypnosis that proved to be crucial for this case. The police began to suspect Nielsen had employed hypnosis to manipulate Hardrup into committing the crimes. This theory gained support from 40 witness statements provided by prisoners and guards at Horsens State Prison. These statements indicated that Hardrup had been under Nielsen's control in prison, with Nielsen manipulating him like a puppet and inducing Hardrup in trance-like states. Furthermore, Hardrup had disclosed to several fellow inmates that Nielsen regularly hypnotized him. The prison statements were similar to the reports, and witnesses from the attempted bank robbery were also on board with the reported statements of him being in a trance-like state. The nature of this hypnotic control became a topic of speculation, and the narrative surrounding the crimes took a brand new turn. Hardrup was no longer viewed as solely as this ruthless perpetrator, but also potentially as a victim ensnared by Nielsen's influence. As the investigation intensified, the secrets of the prison activities were eventually unveiled. The focus shifted to the hypnosis that took place between the two men, leaving the authorities puzzled by its mysterious power and potential to bend an individual's will. This led to Nielsen becoming a possible mastermind behind the heinous murders. Due to this, on April 4th, 1951, authorities arrested Nielsen and charging him as an accomplice in the fatal robbery. As the extensive investigation continued, troubling details emerged. Not only had Nielsen lent his bicycle to Hardrup during the escape, but he also had provided him with the gun 6 months earlier. Furthermore, the evening before the murders, the two men were seen together, and Hardrup even changed his clothes at Nielsen's senile aunt's house before that fateful day. Initially, the police's evidence seemed inadequate to sustain the charge against Nielsen. His alibi appeared to be rock solid, as he had been on a forest trip in North Zealand with a young woman during the bank robbery. Meanwhile, Hardrup maintained that he acted alone in the crime, furthermore casting doubt to the theory of hypnotic murder. He was then set free due to lack of evidence. After 6 months of intensive investigation, Dr. Max Schmidt, the chief physician in the police forensic psychiatry clinic, examined Hardrup and diagnosed him with schizophrenia on December 17th. Dr. Schmidt deemed Hardrup morally deranged, citing him as cynical, dissatisfied, easily changeable, irresponsible, as well as unreliable. However, everything changed during Christmas when Hardrup made a confession filling 2 notebooks revealing Nielsen's involvement as his accomplice. Apparently, Nielsen was the real culprit, having hypnotized Hardrup to carry out the bank coup and shoot and kill if necessary. Dr. Schmidt then changed his initial diagnosis and statement, saying that Hardrup was sane. This led to Nielsen being taken into custody once again, as the evidence supporting his role in the accomplice had significantly strengthened since his previous release over 6 months ago. Dr. Paul Reiter, who had been studying the use of hypnosis for criminal purposes, had also examined Hardrup. Under his guiding, Hardrup underwent an examination where he was administered, quote, truth serum and drug designed to uncover whether or not he was susceptible to hypnosis or any other forms of influence. The results of the test came out positive, showing that Hardrup was indeed affected. To further ascertain the result, needles were carefully inserted into Hardrup. The absence of reaction confirmed that he was in a trance-like state, further strengthening the hypnosis theory. Dr. Reiter conducted extensive interviews with Hardrup's family and close relatives, using them as evidence to support his conclusions about Hardrup's results. Another expert, Dr. Geet Jorgensen, held a different perspective on hypnosis. Despite the apparent examination results, Dr. Jorgensen argued that Hardrup might still be capable of lying or simply bluffing to evade punishment. The discrepancies between the experts led to leading and heated debates and prolonged interrogations. The clash of theories even continued until the time of the trial, where the courtroom witnessed intense arguments and in-depth analysis of the evidence with some extensive expert testimonies. During the trial, Dr. Ryder specifically highlighted the fact that a person can be hypnotized to perform actions they would not typically do, as long as an individual perceives the act as morally justified. According to Dr. Ryder's theory, Nielsen had gradually manipulated Hardrup's mental and emotional state while in prison, ultimately convincing him that committing murder was not only acceptable, but inevitable. Nielsen's reinforced this manipulation through repeated hypnotic suggestion. On top of this, Hardrup testified Nielsen had hypnotized him to commit the crimes. After this huge, extensive legal process that concluded on July 17th, 1955, the much-awaited verdict was delivered. Hardrup was sentenced to indefinite imprisonment at the Institute of Herstedvester, while Nielsen received a life sentence. The jury convicted by Hardrup's defender believed that Nielsen's manipulative ways had turned Hardrup into a murderer. The Danish Supreme Court upheld Nielsen's life sentence and declined to reopen the case. At the time of the Supreme Court's decision, the Danish Medical Legal Council stated their inability to confirm or dispute Dr. Ryder's theory. However, in December 1956, after thoroughly examining the case file, the council issued its final public statement asserting that a significant mental disorder had influenced Hardrup's state of mind involving hypnosis. A few years later, the subcommittee in the Strasbourg Court of Human Rights opened the case for special consideration. In 1960, the subcommittee concluded that Nielsen had been rightfully convicted by the Danish judiciary, a decision that was subsequently upheld by the Human Rights Court in 1961. Both Nielsen and Hardrup were released independently in 1967. However, Nielsen tragically died by suicide using potassium cyanide in 1974, while Hardrup passed away in 2012. Yet even after the verdict, the question lingered: who was truly responsible for these chilling crimes? Was Hardrup merely using his friend as a scapegoat to secure his release? Or had Nielsen exploited the vulnerable friend to execute his dark intentions? As the mystery surrounding the true events of this fateful day persisted, the case of Palle Hardrup and Bjørn Schouw Nielsen continued to intrigue, leaving behind a haunting legacy of unanswered questions.
So this case is wild. There's a lot of things I would like to discuss regarding this whole everything that unfolded. But I would like to start about this hypnosis situation. Me personally, I do not believe in hypnosis. If you believe in it, great. You can keep on believing. I think Nielsen basically brainwashed and manipulated Hardrup into doing things for years, which in that case could lead basically to the situation that happened, the failed robbery. But, Hardrup still ended up running away after murdering the two staff members. And I believe that that's probably that part of Hardrup that was like, no, I don't want to do this, and ran away. Which could happen even if you manipulate somebody. It's hard to manipulate somebody to the point where they can't think for themselves. And I also think that somewhere deep inside, Hardrup, even though he was manipulated and he was a victim, he still was aware of what he was doing, or else he wouldn't have run away. Because if he would have continued with the robbery, he was supposed to steal the money and shoot if necessary. That's Nielsen's manipulation order, if you would say that, right? And he failed to do the actual thing. So, yes, you can. You wanted to say something, Devante.
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to hypnosis, it's cool because especially if you're a repeat listener, I went to school for criminal justice.
You believe in hypnosis?
hypnosis doesn't work the way that people tend to think it does. There has been, this is back in like
60s
51 to the 60s and stuff. So back then there wasn't a lot of research on it. But by the time, I graduated from college, I graduated like in 2017. So by the time you take all those courses, there's actually evidence to suggest that hypnosis can work. However, hypnosis doesn't work the way that people see it, think it does in like movies, where it's like, I'm going to spin this watch in front of you and then you're going to do my will. It's not. It doesn't work like that.
Okay,
it's a lot more.
Me. What does it do? What can you do?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So it's a lot more subtle. So think of it very similar to. Obviously, it was dramatized, but we was watching an anime called Monster, right? So think of it like the main character, Johan. In order for hypnosis to work, there has to be a foundational emotion or memory that you can grip onto, or trauma that you can grip onto, and then eventually you start to distort it. So in his case, he was schizophrenic. And then, obviously, even though there was like a little wish-washy, they did uphold that he did have a mental illness. That was non-negotiable.
Yeah, like they ended up saying that, but I just wanted to clarify, he did initially give the diagnosis schizophrenia, but he took it back after the confession, because then he was like, because like we don't really know for sure what he had, but he had probably some mental illness, yes.
Yeah, I think they did that just to make him seem sane, just so they can convict somebody. But ultimately, based on my educated guess, I'm assuming he probably did have some form of schizophrenia. And when you're trying to hypnotize someone, let's say they have a mental illness like schizophrenia, their perception of reality is already severely distorted. And if you can manipulate how they view that distorted reality into a direction that fits what you want, that can be forms. Think of gaslighting in the most extreme degree. That's what hypnosis is. You're basically convincing someone that whatever they experienced is different from how they remember it, and they should remember it the way that you want them to remember it. So you're using a foundational trauma or memory or emotion, and you're distorting it so that way they perceive it differently to get the outcome that someone wants. So I don't know the details of how he convinced him to, do the robbery, but I'm pretty sure it vaguely went along the lines of
he changed his fundamental beliefs and stuff.
Yeah, based on his schizophrenia, he changed the foundation of what he viewed morally. And then eventually he was able to accept the fact that, maybe this isn't that bad. And then kind of move forward and was able to go through with the robbery and kill. And now the thing about hypnosis is, on the average person, it doesn't work, because most people, human beings on the planet Earth, typically have like this very strong wall between their emotions and their trauma, and they typically don't open up, especially to strangers. Even your friends and family, you still keep a certain amount of that out. And that's what makes hypnosis hard. The more stubborn you are, the less compliant you are to any form of manipulation.
So it's
in terms
basically
of
a type of manipulation.
Yeah.
But it goes deeper. It changes the person's views and also some type of their emotional state as well.
Yeah, like
rather than regular manipulation. Both of them are bad, but like you know what I mean.
I get
so
you mean.
it's more like invading in one's personal self.
Yeah. So like,
okay, but then you call it hypnosis because of that. Okay,
they call it hypnosis because it's, like I said, it's very difficult to do.
Can you snap out of it eventually? Can you undo?
You can.
The damages.
You can. Something can trigger you out of it. Something can actually cause you to be like, well, what the hell am I doing right now? But it basically, think of it just a very vivid. So come along with me in this journey of imagery. So let's say you had the ability to read people's minds and manipulate people's minds. It's based on the fundamental that, let's say if I want to control you, one of the key factors of controlling someone is finding a foundation memory. Like, let's say, for example, I would say myself. Let's say my trauma in my life was I got robbed when I was 12. then in order for me to manipulate that person, like if I wanted to do like a full-blown control, I would alter how they perceive that traumatic event in their life. And then maybe, I got robbed when I was 12, but then maybe they convinced me it was your fault. So they took a core memory, distorted it, and then now I view that foundational trauma differently, and now my behavior moving forward is different.
Will be changed because of that.
Because I'm perceiving it different.
Oh, that's so scary. But you can use hypnosis in that way, in a good way too.
Yeah, you can. Some people use hypnosis to try and get over trauma and get over things. So it can be both for good and evil, as they would say. But it's kind of like having powers without having powers. So yeah, that's pretty much how hypnosis works. It's more like suggestibility than full-blown mind control, but that's how it works.
Yeah, because I had this image of hypnosis, like, as you said, based on these shows where you have like this clock thing and stuff. But if it's more, as you said, which is like a form of manipulation, I believe that more. Because he basically, Nielsen used this type of hypnosis for several years on poor little Hardrup.
Yeah.
So I believe that he could have done a lot of damage, but I still believe that Hardrup was also capable of, like, maybe he snapped out of it and he's like, oh, I'm gonna run away, but he was still in this like trance-like state and just wasn't able to like come back to it. I also want to talk about another thing regarding these, as we mentioned a little bit before, that Dr. Schouw kind of like changed his statement and changing the diagnosis and stuff. There were experts, like when people review this case again, they also have stated that, Hardrup might have been confused during the examinations, and also, that the people who interviewed him kind of were giving him leading questions, and also the drug he had to take and the truth serums might also have given some false statements, or it wasn't really fair. And we have seen that in previous cases in season 1 that have happened before, especially around the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
So it could be also that he could have lied a little bit. So we can't really know for sure if it was a true hypnosis thing, or if he might have been lying to just lessen the sentence and receive, a sentence that is not as harsh. He had also stated, I just want to say one thing, he has also stated that he could take a responsibility for what he did, but that it was not fair how he was treated. He was given so much drugs and psychological torment, as he said it, and that he wanted to retract everything that had been stated, and that he have like this like lingering doubts. I can't speak English either way.
Doubts.
And that he feels like he wasn't in his right mind, even though he's healthy and rehabilitated. Even though he is right now, he still remembers that he was being unfairly treated during the time of the whole trial and the confessions and the investigations. But Devante, want to say something?
But I think what makes this case very messy, like always, is one, this took place during the 50s and 60s. The primary, crime and investigation, where apparently across the world, it's not about finding the truth. It's just finding a conviction. And it sucks because
we don't really know what truly happened.
Yeah, we could never know what truly happened, because what if he was a victim of hypnosis? Maybe it really was just a schizophrenia. Maybe it was because of the interrogation. It could have been a number of things or every single one of them, but we will never know because the case was so messy.
It was
in
rushed.
Terms of how it was investigated, how some of the methods that they used, and the fact that they were full-blown arguing in the courtroom about whether or not this was actually hypnosis.
It was only a battle between experts. It was no evidence at all. It was only based on witnesses and experts, like testimonies.
Yeah, so there was no way for them to truly figure out what was going on about this situation. So me personally, if I'm going to give an educated guess, I truly think he probably did have a mental illness. It's likely he could have had schizophrenia. And then, because schizophrenia is not just completely this, it's kind of like a spectrum. You have some people who have it severely bad, and then you have other people who schizophrenia is like, it's somewhat tolerable. Not really, but you know what I mean. It's just on a lower dosage of schizophrenia. And then he's easy to manipulate, especially in prisons, especially American-like prisons back then were very common in like a lot of countries until there was like a huge prison reform, I think, in Europe at one point. Don't quote me on the date, but there was a huge prison reform at one point. But ultimately, back in the 50s and stuff like that, it was a lot harsher, those environments. So I think due to the combination of the environment, due to the combination of Nielsen and his mental state and the years that he probably spent kind of controlling and manipulating him, I think it's entirely possible that he just was, a victim of circumstance where, yeah, he probably had the potential to commit these crimes within him, but it was definitely brought out by external factors. And unfortunately, because of the investigation as well, we'll never truly know. But I think it's definitely a little bit of everything that played a part into what happened.
I think if I'm gonna do a guess here, I think that he was very manipulated into doing a lot of things. He was easily manipulated into doing certain acts and such. But I also still believe that he was, even though he was manipulated, that he somewhere thought it was right to do those things. And that he was still acting on something that came from within himself. So I think it's, as you said, a mix of everything. But I also believe that he had something to do with it as well, and not only was completely hypnotized to do everything.
Yeah.
But that is my guess on it. We will never know because everything seems a little fishy with everything. But I'm glad that there were some experts that said that he could still be viable for lying. He could still be lying about everything. And I think it was good of them to at least have that discussion. But yeah,
I mean, this is a very juicy, succulent
really
case.
Interesting case. Yeah.
There's multiple layers to, what went wrong, what could have been, and just overall the details of the case in itself. So there's a lot going on in this case, and this is a case that I think, especially if you're listening to the podcast, we always encourage you, go do your research, come to your own conclusions, then come back, leave a comment, let us know, reach out, chat. We love the conversation, but, just in general, this is a very interesting case. And like I said, hypnosis is not what you think it is. So technically, it's still very much possible. It is something that's still being researched and looked into in terms of how hypnosis and, manipulation of that degree can affect the human mind. So there's plenty of information about that, especially it's 2023. Come on. So just Google it and you'll see that there's a ton out there. And it's really interesting stuff. I would encourage you. So, I hope you enjoyed the episode today. I hope you enjoyed just the overall vibe. And I hope you enjoyed the new format with, the little new sound effects and all that to make it a little bit more immersive. Like, I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit
story-based and stuff as well.
You feel me? Like, just hope you enjoyed it.
Just a little bit like something.
Just a little bit of spice.
We would also love to know how you, what you feel about this episode and also about the future episodes. Like, if you have any thoughts, if you want to discuss something, feel free to do that on our social medias. We would love to see that. And as well as we grow and go forth, we will do our best to try and be better.
Yeah. Like I said, just let us know what you want us to cover. Even if it's not a case specifically, it can be a topic, subject matter. So for some reason, you guys really like when we was talking about just the final episode because, that did pretty decent. So Like I said, if you want to chat, we're down to chat. But of course, we got to keep up tradition. And we have to end the episode with a delicious food or dessert or something just edible. You know, we have to keep it up to negate the negative vibes from the cases. So I'm feeling some mochi right now. I can go for some mochi.
Oh, yeah, you talking to me? Oh.
Yeah, I'm saying I can go for some
yes,
mochi right now.
First. Yes. Oh, okay.
Actually,
you're
I
gonna be like, what the heck is going on? I'm gonna eat a cucumber sandwich, which is basically, instead of bread, you have cucumbers on the bottom and on the top, and then you put like cream cheese in the middle. You can put whatever things you want inside. You can put, like, if you want ham or like whatever you want to put inside, you can do that. And it's super good. If you have cream cheese with cucumber sandwich, that's like chef's kiss. But you know, that's, or you can use bell peppers as well.
I can tell you weren't paying attention to what I said. I said I was in the mood for mochi. He was like, oh, I'm gonna go first.
I didn't hear because the connection was kind of iffy. My bad. Mochi. I mean, that's cool. I like that too, especially matcha mochi. Matcha mochi, that's funny.
Some pineapple mochi, you know. But you know, it's gonna be that's something I can go for. I probably can go to the supermarket and get it, but you know, food prices. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
The first episode, yay!
The first episode of season 2, and you already know the vibes. We will be back next week, Monday.
Yes,
back again with another banger. And, you know, hopefully you enjoy that one and kind of just come along with the trip and journey. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Bye.